We have other candidates, Mary Kay Bacayao and Derek Grayson. In our format will be each of you will have a 2-minute opening statement, followed by 3 questions, and then a 2-minute closing statement. And then if we have time, any questions that come to us from the audience. All right, we will go ahead and get started with our candidates for U.S. Senate. And as I mentioned, Johnny Isaacson, our incumbent, is not here today. And our candidates will be are seated alphabetically. And so we will start with our 2-minute opening statement from Mary Kay Bacayao.
Hi, I'm running for U.S. Senate. And the reason why I'm here today and the reason why I'm on the ballot as a choice that you can pick, first on the ballot, Mary Kay Bacayao, is because I've been on a local school board and I tried to stop Common Core from there. And I realized that as a college professor who knows about math standards, who studied detailed analysis of the math standards, that they were 1 to 2 years behind. So I tried to tell our state legislature, please stop voting for these bills because they're advancing Common Core. And then I found the root of the problem. As I read the bills, I found that it was our own U.S. Senator Johnny Isaacson who connected with Kennedy to originally co-sponsor No Child Left Behind. That was a disaster. But he went about to try and fix it. But when he tried to fix it, he made it worse. This is No Child Left Behind. This is his fix to No Child Left Behind, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And guess what? Starting in March, I read it before it was passed. It's the worst bill it could possibly be because it gives the authority over what our kids learn to the U.S. Department of Education, all the standards, all the assessments, all the teachers' evaluations. They're all subject to what the U.S. Department of Education wants. So Johnny voted for this, but not only these. He voted for so many other things. He votes more often with the Democrats than with the Republicans. And in the Freedom Index, he's so far down on the list of Republicans that he's closest in line next to the Democrats. How will I be different? What I'm going to do is do what I'm already doing, which is read the bills. I would have voted no on all of these. So if you send me to Washington, D.C., I'll tell you what the bills say, and I'll vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bacayao. Mr. Grayson, your 2-minute opening statement.
Well, it's still morning time. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing fine. You heard my name is Derek Grayson. Before I begin, I want to thank Mr. John Mullinex. Had it not been for him and Brian Pritchard, I wouldn't be here because I didn't know about this event. Of course, you know that Johnny Isaacson was confirmed, but Johnny Isaacson is not here once he found out I was coming. Because I was coming for Johnny Isaacson, and I was going to ask Johnny Isaacson about his voting record. 2 pages of unconstitutional voting that Johnny Isaacson has engaged in. Now, in 2014, when I ran, I was the only person on the stage out of about 8 other candidates that talked about the importance of the Constitution. I pledged 100% of the Constitution, 100% of the time. It was pretty much all I talked about because I know when you violate the Constitution, you get what we have today. Now, you heard people up here answering the question in terms of what is government for. What the Constitution, our preamble says that it is to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, promote general welfare, and secure the blessings of ourselves and our children. That is the purpose of government, and the Constitution is there to keep government restrained. And so what we have taking place in this country today are people like Johnny Isaacson who really does not care anything at all about the Constitution. They trash it every day. Every time they engage in activities that are beyond their enumerated powers, every time they engage in activities that increase our debt, every single time they engage in activities that allows for the government to spy on us. All of those things are in violation of the Constitution. And you know who gives them the power to do it? You do every time you vote for them. So it's time to do something different and vote for someone that will stand for the Constitution.
Okay, just a brief statement from the Fannin County Tea Party Patriots before we start. The Fannin County Tea Party Patriots believe in individual liberty, constitutional government, less taxes, free markets, and that nearly every problem in America can be solved by restoring the concepts of the United States Constitution. They also believe that no American should run for public office until they understand the Constitution and the wishes of the Founding Fathers. So some of these questions are going to be based on those beliefs. We'll start with our first question, and Mr. Grayson, this goes to you. According to the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, does the federal government have authority to pass laws providing for the control of guns?
Absolutely not. I am unashamedly in favor of all that was promised in securing our liberties and our freedoms. And the Second Amendment is second to the First Amendment. The First Amendment allows us to disagree with our government when we find that we don't like what they're doing to us. But the Second Amendment ensures that we can protect against that if it comes down to it. If we find that the ballot no longer works, none of us should be deprived of the right to own and bear arms and carry them freely. I am for no gun laws at the federal level other than protecting the Second Amendment from infringement. And I believe in constitutional carry. So no, Brian, I don't think the government has any business making laws restricting the ownership, carrying, or the use of firearms for legal purposes.
Okay, before we go on, these candidates drove a long way today, and in the back there, some people said they were having trouble hearing. So if you just respect these candidates out here trying to present their positions to you today. Ms. Bacquiao. Ms. Bacquiao. According to the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, does the federal government have the authority to pass laws providing for the control of guns?
No, absolutely not. We have to have the right to defend ourselves and to protect ourselves, our own property in our own homes, and from any attack that anyone would level against us. If you see the cities where the gun control laws are the strictest, those are the ones with the most crime. And if you go to countries where you have totalitarian governments, that's where they take away your guns. That's the first thing they did in Cuba, where they took away people's guns. And then only the government could have guns. And look how that's working out for Cuba. We need to defend our right to bear arms, and I will defend that every single day.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bacquiao, this question is for you. I'll just read the question for you first. Will you support a call for a constitutional convention? If yes, why? And if not, why?
No, I will not. I will not, because our Constitution is fine just as it is. And I am very concerned about anyone who would try to rewrite the Constitution in this kind of atmosphere that we have now. People aren't even respecting the Constitution. Constitutional laws, unconstitutional laws are passed every day in our state and at the federal level. We need to make sure that our Constitution, the Founding Fathers, set it up correctly. I'm not going to try and change it in any way.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grayson, what about you? Will you support a call for a constitutional convention? Yes or no, and why or why not?
The answer is no. Raise your hands if you're familiar with the 16th Amendment and what the 17th Amendment did. Okay, well, briefly, the 16th Amendment made us all debt slaves. That's number one. The 17th Amendment took control of our senators from us, made them beholden to the federal government, incentivizes them. Our Constitution is already set the way that it's supposed to be. Now, if we have a bunch of crooked people already in Washington, D.C., and in our state legislature, why in the world would we trust them with a constitutional convention? I say no, because you never know what might come out of it. They'll tell you one thing, but they could go in and the next thing you know, we have no Constitution at all. And furthermore, our Constitution is already clear. Make them obey it first. Then maybe we can talk about some other things later on down the road. But at this point, if you can't even obey the Constitution, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to go and do something that might be even more disastrous for this country, like taking the Constitution away from us.
Thank you. Let's start with you, Mr. Grayson. Which Supreme Court justice depicts, and give reasons for, please, what you would like to see in the next Supreme Court justice?
Antonin Scalia. Now, I heard a lot of people talking about Justice Thomas, and he may vote constitutionally. That's great. But what set them apart is the same thing that will set me apart as a U.S. Senator. See, a lot of people talk about, I vote no. But that ain't enough. You have a coach that shows up for the games on football teams, but when they have a losing season, it's certainly two, they fire the coach because he's ineffective. I believe we need effective leadership, and what made Scalia effective was that not only would he stick with the Constitution, he took it a step further and explained why in simple terms. He broke it down, and one thing that he was quoted as saying, the Constitution, like the Bible, it says what it says. It's not a living, breathing document that changes on the whim of anybody who decides that there is something that happens to be inconvenient, like a lot of Christians will do when it comes to their Bible. The Bible says what it says. The Constitution says what it says. We should obey it. So Scalia went that extra mile. I will go that extra mile by not only voting no, I will tell you the individuals that are engaged in activities that are in violation of the Constitution. Because see, I know that the power resides with the people. And it is the people that have the ability to effect term limits on people that don't care about the Constitution.
Ms. Becky Yao, which Supreme Court justice depicts what you would like to see in the next Supreme Court justice? Give us some reasons.
I would go back in time and select John Jay, who was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice. I would select him because he was the original author with Hamilton and Madison of the Federalist Papers. The Federalist Papers, the Constitution, Blackstone, all of those documents that were used to found our country, all of that is what could solve all of our problems. Our problems are so easily solved. So from what John Jay wrote in the Federalist Papers, and what he believed, what our founding fathers believed, that is what I would want in the next Supreme Court justice. And I will not settle. I will not settle for people who compromised Republicans have settled for whatever reason. I want someone 100% pro-life. I want someone who is going to follow the original intent of the Constitution. I don't know who that person is right now, but I'm sure that person is out there. I will not compromise.
Thank you very much. Were there any questions in the audience that were submitted for these candidates? No questions. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to move on to our closing statements.
Can I ask him a question? Can we ask
I answer any question. Anybody.
All right, so we're going to change it up a little bit because we do have a little extra time. They did drive great distances to be here, so we're going to allow each candidate to ask each other a question, and they have agreed to do this. So, Ms. Bacchial, will hand the microphone to you to ask your question.
Okay, well.
And we'll do the same timing with a 2-minute response from Mr. Grayson.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask Johnny Isaacson some questions, and so if I ask him some questions, maybe Derek can try and answer?
Let me clarify though, he's answering as himself and not as,
Right.
okay, all right.
But I'm asking Johnny, but he's going to answer.
Okay,
Johnny.
okay.
Okay. Why did you vote to confirm Eric Holder? I would not have voted to confirm Eric Holder. Why did you vote to confirm Hillary Clinton as the Secretary of State? Look at the disaster she has caused in Benghazi. I would not have picked somebody who didn't even have a military background to be in charge of the Secretary of State. Johnny, why did you vote for the Every Student Succeeds Act? Why did you vote for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act? Why aren't you here today?
Well, I can't really speak specifically for Mr. Isaacson, but I can venture a guess. Mr. Isaacson, like Nathan Deal, who vetoed campus carry, who vetoed the Religious Liberty Act, they were both Democrats at one time. And being a Democrat, you have already acknowledged that you are progressive. And being progressive means that the Constitution changes as you see fit. Our opponent in the Republican race said, well, you know, that document is 250 years old. That is the epitome of looking at the Constitution as being an obsolete document. Mr. Isaacson, I can only surmise he goes along to get along. All of the things that Ms. Bacchial just mentioned is an expansion of government. It is an intrusion into our lives. It is that unholy alliance between Republican royals and Democrat royals, and they continue on that path. That is the only answer I can give here.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Grayson, do you have questions for her?
I have a question. Maybe Mary can help me understand this particular question. Mr. Isaacson, in October 30th, 2015, there was a vote to lift the debt ceiling into 2017. In other words, more government spending, more taxation ultimately, more expansion of government. Why did you first vote yes, and then when you realized that they had the 60 votes needed to pass, approach Mr. McConnell and ask him, could you change your vote to no? I'm curious. Mary, do you have an answer?
I think it may be because he wanted to get reelected.
Oh, yeah. This is an election cycle. Now that explains it all.
Thank you. Okay, we did get some audience questions.
Let's go with 1 minute because in the interest of time.
Okay, sure. All right, just a second. Let me read through both.
Why do you have to turn the card?
Okay, the question is, what will you do for the Veterans Choice Program? This particular person said it took 7 months to get care that should have taken 15 days. 5 months was with Isaacson. So the question is asking, what will you do for the Veterans Choice Program, or what will you do for veterans? Mr. Grayson, would you like to go first on that one?
Sure. Well, the first thing that you can do is not vote for Johnny Isaacson.
Amen.
That will get him off of the Veterans Affairs. He will no longer be chairman.
Right.
Once I go, whether they put me on that board or not, I am going to be pushing, because I'm U.S. Navy, I am going to be pushing for legislation to fire every single incompetent person working for the Veterans Administration who backlogs, forces people to wait, makes them to have to fight to prove that they are in need of help. Those people are the problem. But it is the bureaucrats at the top that allows them and makes them possible, and it is why our veterans suffer. We send them to war, we break them, and when they come back, we ignore them. And the only way that is going to change is if you change who's at the top. Replace Johnny with me, and then I'll replace the people that are standing in the way of veterans' health care issues.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Bacchial, what are your thoughts on what will you do for veterans?
I met a woman when I first decided to run. Her name is Denise Caldron Sorgness, and she has been fighting the VA for 19 years. She has been fighting for spousal benefits, veterans benefits, and she has not been able to even reach the U.S. Senator who is in charge of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. She wrote a book, Stall, Deny, and Hope They Die, the unwritten policy of the Veterans Administration. And I hear from so many veterans, they have to drive so far. The care is sub-rate care. The care for our veterans needs to be the best care in the entire United States. These are the people that laid their lives on the line for us. We need to give them the gold treatment, special treatment, so much better than what we're doing now. And the way to solve that, first of all, the way to solve that is to end this bureaucracy, because the bureaucracy, you can't get fired. You have a government job, you can't get fired. We need real jobs where people can work, and if they don't do their job, they get fired. That's the real world. We need the choice program. Veterans should go wherever they want to go and get the best doctors that they could possibly get. And we need to take the money that we're giving to our enemies and use that to take care of our veterans.
Okay, now we're going to give the candidates, because we only had 2 in this contest, we're going to give the candidates 3 minutes to close. Ms. Bakiao, 3 minutes to close, please.
I know my last name, Mary Kay Bakiao, is a little bit hard. My maiden name, when I grew up, it used to be Mary Kay Fannin. So I'm so happy to see my name practically without the G on everybody's license plate and all over the place. My dad is Irish. Actually, it used to be O Fannin, and then they took off the O and they took off the G. Why did the Irish people take off the G? Because at that time, Irish need not apply. It was about jobs. So today, it's still about jobs. We have given our manufacturing, our productivity, we've given that overseas because of what the federal government has done with NAFTA. And now they're getting ready to do the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which the incumbent voted for. We need to get our jobs back. Congress, we should not abdicate that role to Obama and let him negotiate those treaties. Congress is responsible for that. Congress needs to step up and fight the fight. There is not a fight from the current U.S. Senator. I am ready to go to Washington, D.C. to fight, number 1, tomorrow's Mother's Day. To fight for moms who want to have authority over what their kids learn in school. That's why I started this fight. They don't have it. Dads don't have it. To fight to get our taxes under control, and the government should not be incentivizing our lives through the tax code. It needs to be a fair tax, a proportional tax, so that you pay a proportion of your money, and there are no games, no tricks, no hiding. And it needs to be low. The government doesn't need all this money. The federal government is wasting it, creating bureaucracies that waste the money. If it were a charity, it would definitely be shut down. The government is not a charity. We, the American people, you need to take care of that. We have joy. We have love in our hearts for people. We want to do things for people. When the government's doing that, what can we do? We want to be the America that cares for each other, that cares for people. And we can't do that if we've abdicated that role to the government, like these socialist laws that have passed. They haven't started to really enforce these, but when you read ahead, because if you read the laws and you know where it's going, you would have no choice, just like I had, to get in this race and stop this nonsense.
Thank you very much. Mr. Grayson, 3 minutes to close.
This is my push card. You'll see some on your table. You'll see at the top the word liberty. In that preamble I mentioned earlier, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Money. I want us to go back to where we were in 1913. No income tax. So I'm not looking for a proportional tax or anything. I want 0 tax from the federal government on my income. This is the way that it used to be before they made us debt slaves. Guns. Definitely pro-Second Amendment. immigration, no amnesty, our veterans, because I am a veteran and I know what it is to go and serve, and you want to be treated right in education. I want the federal government out of education. Look, I've always been a straight shooter, and I've told you, I'm about 100% of the Constitution, 100% of the time. But there are three groups of people in the Republican Party. Those that are like me, we are in the minority, and most of them come out to events like this. The second group are those who say that they want the Constitution, but they compromise for various reasons. The number one reason is I don't want to see the Democrats win. Guess what? Both parties work together behind the scenes. The direction of this country has not changed no matter who has been in charge. In 2006, we had the House, we had the Senate, and we had the White House. Still, we were headed in this same direction. It has not changed, people, because of one party or another. If you are sick of kings, if you're sick of them in this, do something different this time. Not once in 2014 election or in this one have I ever said, I want you to send me to be a leader. You don't need leaders, people. Nowhere in the Constitution does it talk about you electing leaders. It tells you to elect people that will go and serve we the people. A government of the people, for the people, by the people. People who understand what it is to serve the will of the people, their constituency. So I don't want to be your leader because you don't need any.
That's right.
We have a constitution that outlines exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing in Washington, D.C., and they do everything that is different from that. So if you think that I'm a long shot, I'm only a long shot because you aren't brave enough to do something different because you still want a king. But if you are tired, it is time to stand up and stop Washington from riding your backs, because we are selling them our children. We are allowing them to turn our children into debt slaves, and it is time for it to end. And don't tell me we can't turn it around. It is a few people always that has made the difference in this country. They said we couldn't end slavery. We did. They said we couldn't get rid of Jim Crow. We did. And it was a few people that did it. You can do it now.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for your U.S. Senate candidate, Mary Kay Bacquiao. And Mr. Derek Grayson, thank you very much for driving all the way up here today and presenting your platform to the voters. Next, it's time for our